It was like closer to
I'll just stay standing for the pledge.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Welcome, everybody, coming out on a beautiful night. I just want to logistically, I hope everyone had a good break, by the way. I know it's hard coming back in and getting back to work. But the way it's going to work tonight is we have there's a board meeting, so we have some business first. So when I get to the public session, the first one here, only come up if you want to talk about something else on the agenda. When we get down to the public forum, there'll be another opportunity, obviously. And then if you want to speak to the budget, that's when will be the right time to come up. But we want to get through some other business first, and then we'll get to that. So let's start with approval of the minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Okay.
Second.
And second. Okay, all in favor? We're good. You good, Jamie? You there?
Yes, good. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome. All right. Then adjustments was really just that, if you want to speak, I'll open up public session now. If you have something about the agenda, come on up. Otherwise, wait till the next time when we do the forum and we'll open it up for everybody. Okay. Then we're going to get right into staff reports, and I'm going to hand that over to Patrick.
So Alan Lampert is here and Elise Reveley as well. I don't know if Elise is going to come up, but both of you come on up to the mic, and they're representing Mary Meeting Adult Education. And for those of you that may not know this, Alan, I'm not sure how many years it's been. 7, 8?
A lot.
Okay. All right. 8?
At least.
Okay. That we used to have, RSU1 Adult Education, and then we have now partnered and part of Mary Meeting for 7 or 8 years, and that is with Topsom, SAD 75, and Brunswick School System. And tonight, Alan is going to talk about the program, give a brief overview, but also talk about another school district that's come on or is going to come on board as part of Mary Meeting as well. So thank you for being here and look forward to it.
Thank you. Again, my name is Alan Lampert. I'm the director at Mary Meeting Community and Adult Education. I'm pleased to introduce Elise Reveley as our new assistant director. She has officially started in that capacity and is slowly transitioning her office away from Topsom to the Bath campus site here. And she's a welcome addition to the staff in this new capacity, and we're looking forward. She used to be our academic coordinator for quite a while, and she had an opportunity to join us in a different role, and we're excited about having her do that. So I think some of you know Elise from her time here in Bath, so welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you want to say a few words?
Yes.
Go.
So as a resident of Bath and as a mom of RSU1 school students, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to working with you in this capacity.
So I do have a couple of updates for everyone. The first one is I think it's probably a good idea just to do a very brief overview of the program. We have 2 large arms of Mary Meeting. One is our academic side, which includes high school completion through a couple different tracks. It includes college transitions. It includes workforce development. We've developed a fairly substantial multilingual program as well that's run primarily out of the UMaine Augusta campus. Soon we're going to be moving, though, next week to SMCC classrooms. And we do offer some ELO classes here at the Bath campus site as well. And we also do workforce development classes as part of our academic programming. We've done for many, many years, we've done CNA programming, and we're looking to maybe explore some new options as well. The other thing I just want to mention is that we have a large driver's education program. We work with a lot of Morris High School students. Currently, we have 6 cars in our fleet. We have 3 classroom instructors, 5 additional driving instructors, And we run at least 10 classes a year in Topsom, Brunswick, Bath, and Wiscasset. So we cover a pretty large area, offering a lot of classes over the year. Currently, our community education is the second large arm. With that large program, we're running over 400 plus classes at 30 plus locations, 200 teachers. So a Mary Meeting has become a rather large program. We generate approximately 6,500 enrollments a year. So it's a big number. We put a lot of people through our programming, and of course, community education is a very popular program that we offer. It's important for us because it really is sort of our revenue generating arm as well. All of our community education programs are self-supporting, but we also, like driver's education, have to generate revenue. It's entirely self-supporting. If we need a new car, Mary Meeting pays for it out of pocket. If we need to make repairs or anything with the car, oil, maintenance, everything else, it all comes from our operating income, okay? And the last thing I just want to mention very briefly is our budget for this upcoming fiscal year. I met with Patrick about a week ago, maybe about a week ago, and I talked to him about some major changes that are happening to Mary Meeting, one of which Patrick already alluded to. Effective July 1st, Richmond will be joining Mary Meeting Adult Ed. Now, it's a modestly small community, but it's really going to help all of us because the interlocal agreement that we have with all of our partnering districts is that the districts pay proportionally to their population. And based on that number, Richmond will be contributing $30,000 a year in operating revenue for Mary Meeting, and correspondingly, $30,000 will be paid less by our other districts. So that's one big variable that's really going to benefit RSU1 to start. The second one is, and I know probably Katie and Patrick are aware, but Deb too, the 16 to 20 money, I think it's EFM 39, that money is no longer going to be going directly to the school districts based on the report of 16 to 20-year-olds being worked on. That money is now going to go directly to adult education programs. So we have factored that into next year's budget. So correspondingly, the local share numbers for all of our partnering districts is going to go down, in some cases considerably, like here at RSU1, based on that $100,000 of anticipated income for 16 to 20, coupled with the joining of Richmond to the program. So we anticipate the savings to RSU1 for next year's budget will be a little over $40,000 less than what RSU1 paid last year. So to give you a sense of the actual number, we're projecting RSU1's local share contribution to be $80,138 in 2027. And FY 2026, it was $122,134. So I think hopefully it's going to provide you with a little bit of room to work with. Okay. So does anybody have any questions about our programming or what we're doing?
Any questions, Jennifer?
Hi, thank you for that report. Are you involved with helping kids get into community college at all in terms of that process? I just read recently that there was a new scholarship by the Alfond organization that would provide more funding for kids who were people trying to get into industrial programs, workforce programs, as long as they were over 18 and I believe only enrolled part-time in community college or something. And is that funding that's new this year, or has that happened before?
So we do offer a college transitions program, and I'm going to have Elise speak to college transitions because she helps run it. So Elise, go right ahead.
Hi, Jennifer. Yes, so we do run the college transition program, and what that incurs is that we work closely with our community college partners, specifically SMCC in our coordinating area. The Harold Alfond Foundation has actually been working with our community colleges for a number of years on workforce trainings and grants and opportunities for funding their training, their materials, and working on these workforce skills that they have. So this is in addition, what you're talking about is in addition to what they've always been doing. What we do with Mary Meeting Adult Ed is we help students make that leap from finishing their high school diploma, finishing their equivalency, and going into college, preparing them to make sure that they're ready for it.
well, I hope that the community college new funding or new process for being available to students is a welcome thing and that will help a lot of students achieve those workforce development, plus also the, additional education too. So I'm hoping that's a big bump for you guys and for a lot of kids. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Jamie, did you have any question?
I did. I actually have a few. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we're trying to adjust the volumes a little high. So we're trying to-
So what you're telling me is don't speak so.
there you
forced.
go. There you go. Now we're- okay. go
Great.
ahead.
Well, thank you. Thank you guys for coming in and sharing this information. EFM 39 for 16 to 20-year-olds, that's something I've never heard of before. I'd love for an explanation for that.
So the EFM 39 report is something that's been around for a long time. For many years, adult education programs had to report to their local districts exactly how many students in the 16 to 20-year-old age group we were working with academically. And that number was then forwarded to the districts, and they in turn forwarded that number to the Department of Education. And then the Department of Education would provide a modest subsidy check representing the amount of students that were helped, and that money went directly to the local school districts. That's no longer going to happen. Now adult education is going to report the numbers to the state, and we're going to be reimbursed directly, as opposed to that money going sort of in a circular way back to the districts themselves.
Okay. How many students from RSU1 in that 16 to 20-year-old range are you serving right now?
Typically on a given year, we serve between 10 to 20 students depending on the year. Last year, I believe we served 16 total.
And where do those referrals come from?
Most are walk-in self-referral.
Okay. And are they, do we share with them the information about the Credit Pathways program?
Do you mean which program? Are you talking about completing their diploma? Are you talking about early college?
Just our students that are living within the district who are coming into Mary Meeting Adult Education, do they have the option for the HiSET and or the Credit Pathways program that has been proven to be incredibly successful at RSU1?
Absolutely. They do have the choice to do one or the other. For most students, when they make the choice to do the HiSET, it's because of time spent. They're looking to either complete it so they can move forward, go to college, go to the work, and that's what usually factors in their decision.
Okay, awesome. And then my last question is about driver's education. I don't think it's a big secret that I'm always looking for ways to make that more accessible for students that are living at or below poverty level. And I'm just wondering, what is the scholarship process for Mary Meeting Adult Education right now? You have said that you have 6 cars and 3 instructors and more in-class instructors. And just wondering what the process is for young people who can't afford $500, $600 out of pocket.
I think we spoke about this a little while ago. There are times when Mary Meeting has access to a scholarship fund. At this time, though, I think we've utilized all scholarship funds for the remainder of this year, but we try to access that fund when the funds are available to help out. But again, driver's education for us is self-funded. So we pay everything out of pocket to support that program. So it's very difficult. It's also very expensive. It's $575 for a student to go through the program. Sometimes we try to hand out maybe a partial scholarship. We see if the family can put some money in. Maybe we'll subsidize a little bit, but we rarely subsidize an entire amount of $575. We just don't have the resources to do that. I'm taking a fresh look at our scholarship fund in general, and I'm hoping that we're going to be able to have enough in our endowment to maybe add more scholarships each fiscal year. But at this time, we're still trying to assess exactly whether or not we can make that happen.
Okay, thank you. How many drivers from RSU1 have completed the driver's education over the past school year?
You mean how many students from Morris High School have? Oh,
Yeah.
I don't have that number. It's probably several dozen.
I'd love to find out what that number is. If you could follow up with Patrick, that would be lovely.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Other questions for our guests? Anybody? No, it's very informative. It's great to hear the update. Great to hear how things are changing with Richmond, and be a nice new equilibrium. And welcome aboard. We're happy you're a part of this, and thank you for all the info.
Thank you.
So next, we're going to shift gears and we have a student presentation. So we have Charlie Ware and we have Maisie Maines here, who's going to come up. And you guys want to come up to this mic, or do you just want to? Yeah, I think come up there. Yeah. And so we have a presentation on the Can We project. So thank you both for being here. Well, Charlie, you don't have a choice, but thank you.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, well, thank you for having us. I'm Charlie. I'm a junior.
And I'm Maisie. I'm also a junior.
And yeah, we're talking about the Can We project today.
So for some background information before we start, the program was launched in 2018 at Waynfleet Academy, and now it's spread to roughly 20 schools in Maine and New Hampshire, including Morse, starting this school year. Our goal is to equip high school students across Morse with vital communication skills to actively participate as engaged citizens in a democracy. The Can We project does this by focusing on productive dialogue across political and other differences through 3 yearly retreats for participating students. So a little bit more about that. Can we ask students to think about these 4 questions? So first being, who am I? What do I believe? And who or what has influenced my beliefs? Secondly, who are you? What do you believe? And who or what has influenced your beliefs? What matters to us? What questions can we ask to help us understand a topic, issue, or other viewpoints? What are some reliable sources for those information? What understandings can we create together that are mostly informed by our varied viewpoints? Are there actions that we can take together? And so here at Morse, we have a cohort of about 30 students, with our 2 co-liaisons being Dawn Lee and Carrie Emerson. And since we have such a big group, we actually divided our cohort into 2 groups, the first one having 14 members and the second one having about 16. And now that the school year is almost over, we have participated in all of our retreats for 2025 and 2026.
So the first retreat is held at Morse High School. It was late October for group number 1 and early November for group number 2. So the facilitators from the Can We project staff led us through the day and came to our school. And that focuses on an introduction to the program and making sure that all participants have a bias for how to communicate respectfully before diving into deeper topics that might get a little controversial. So we did a story exchange where 2 partnerships will share a story. So I might tell Maisie that when I was younger, I had a pet who died and that really influenced my life. And so then Maisie, after hearing everything I say, tells that story back to me, but she tells it from my point of view. So Maisie would say, I had a pet when I was younger and they died. And so it really just helps grow understanding between the 2 people and help you see their point of view a little more deeply. And then similarly, we did a picture paddles activity, which are little whiteboards, and you're sort of rotating through different partnerships, and there'll be different prompts like draw a place that's important to you. And so you each will share out for about a minute. The other partner can't talk while you do that. And then they'll sort of repeat back what they heard, what they thought were some common themes about what was important to you, and maybe things that you 2 shared in common that you might not have noticed before. And we also just discussed program norms, wanting to keep everything understanding and compassionate moving forward. So retreat number 2 is held at the Augusta Civic Center in December, and all schools attended. So we participated in breakout sessions with randomly assigned groups, and both cohorts from Morse came at the same time for this. So retreat 2 focuses on continuing to build students' basic communication skills, but then diving into more controversial issues as well. So for the first half of the day, we did similar picture paddles activities and discussions about some lighter topics. And the second half of the day is focused on specific issues that are important to students. So someone might bring to the table an environmental awareness issue or a gun rights issue. But due to bus schedules, our cohort was not able to participate in the second half, which was kind of disappointing, but we tried to build from that moving forward. Lastly, the third retreat was held at Lincoln Academy for group number 1 and Mount Ararat for group number 2. Both were in early April. Facilitators from the Can We Project led us through the day again. They came to each school. And this focuses on integrating more closely with one of the partner schools, since there are over 20 in all. And so we did picture paddles. We did a civil tea where you're in small groups, maybe 5 or 6 students, and you're given a prompt. So ours was about if politics belong in the classroom or not, and in what situations they can be beneficial or harmful, and kind of just developing your position and understanding about a topic more deeply. And then we worked on a brainstorming session for creating cross-school events, but we did have lower attendance at this retreat due to students' busy schedules in April and some different conflicting events. And then besides the 3 retreats, we've also tried to focus on bringing back what we've learned into the Morse community. And so the first thing we've done this year was visited the Morse freshman class for 2 40-minute sessions to start off each of their freshman awareness days. So we had a member of Can We who was matched up with an advisory group, and they led them through picture paddles, questions and discussions like go to one side of the room if you like cats and the other if you like dogs, but then discuss where that opinion came from with someone who disagrees, and some other intentional games as well. And then once a month on average, we try to meet in a builder block period just to regroup, since we only have 3 planned retreats. And these meetings have been used to debrief, play games, plan events, or talk about expectations.
So what does the future for Can We look like? Our next steps, we're hoping to recruit more students for the 2026 and 27 school year. We want to attend and possibly help facilitate the retreats next year, execute our goals and ideas of a community or lower grade discussion with like that civil tea or activity sessions that Charlie was talking about. And lastly, we want to continue to grow and learn, since this was our building year.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. You have questions?
Sure. Questions? Who has questions, comments? Yes? No? Yeah? Jennifer, go ahead.
Was there any discussion that was maybe not specifically involved? Well, was there discussion about public service in general? Like in any of the conversations, did people understand, like have a feeling about public service, or public service in politics, or public service in general?
I didn't notice it a ton, at least. And I'm sure, like with the civil tea and things like that, a lot of times we're split into separate groups and we'll sort of debrief and come back together as a whole. But you really just mainly want to focus on hearing the other couple people's perspectives. So it's hard to know if other groups maybe were talking about that, but for mine at least, it wasn't super prevalent.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just curious. So Lincoln Academy and Mount Ararat are 2 very different size schools and populations and communities. And I was wondering, did anyone realize something different or similar between those 2 experiences?
Well, we tried to come back in a builder block meeting afterwards, since there was 2 very different experiences. And a common theme is actually that the 2 other schools ended up having much higher attendance for theirs than we could for ours. But even though there was kind of a discrepancy, it felt very cohesive, which was interesting. And I think a lot of people definitely brought back different opinions or ideas that they had learned, which is kind of cool, because you're going to learn something new every time that you're talking to new people.
Yeah, go ahead, Patty.
So did you guys come across any challenges when you presented your point of view? Was there someone that was adamantly against it? And then what kind of strategy did you learn to deal with that?
I think the biggest part of Can We is that everybody wants to be there, and everybody really has open ears and wants to listen to what other people have to say. Definitely, like, you are going to run into some disagreement, but I think such a big part about what the program is that everybody wants to listen and they want to learn how to have these discussions. So, not too much like arguing or disagreeing, but, it definitely comes up. So
And have you been able to take that into the real world and use it effectively?
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because now, after doing Can we sort of have the basis of all of the norms that they provide us with. And like Maisie was saying, when you're talking to other people who have those same norms, it's really, you keep that respect and communications there in like a respectful way. But it's definitely harder when not everyone has that basis for norms in the real world. But I think it's definitely taught me, and probably Maisie too, just that even if the other person isn't necessarily going to bring the same type of communication as you, it's easy to control kind of how you want to talk. And that's important.
Other questions or comments? Go ahead, Jamie.
My question is about the bus issue, and wondering if you could tell me a little bit about that and what might help next time avoid that situation.
Yeah, so I definitely think that that was a bit of a bummer, but it was really just because the buses that we have access to had to be back for a certain time for pickup and drop off of students. And so since Augusta was so far away and we had a group of at least 30 students, we couldn't just take vans or anything. And so we had to leave at that lunch period. And it was agreed upon by the facilitators that we could have left a little bit later, but that would have been sort of disruptive to the second half of the day. And so it was just easier to leave at that lunchtime. But I think moving forward, it definitely was a little bit disappointing because that was sort of the moment that you could talk about those more controversial issues. And so we would definitely want to try and see if we could look for any solutions moving forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, so was that the one in Augusta? Was that like is that kind of the culminate? Is that a real, it's with all the other schools, how was that interacting with the other schools?
Okay, Maisie was absent. But,
Oh, okay.
it was really interesting. They have you, even when you walk in before you're assigned into different rooms, you're expected to just sit at a table without students from your school. So when you're doing introductions and everything, they sort of have some basis questions like what was your favorite movie and just stuff like that that's written on the table, and you can sort of talk with others, and then they'll split you up into different groups again. And so it's just, I would say, very immersive since you're not with people that you know. And I thought that was interesting.
Great. All right. Anybody else? Kurt?
Yeah, thanks for the presentation, and I think it's obviously a great idea that we can all learn from at any age, but it probably makes better impact when you're younger. I'm just wondering, the type of people from the schools that participate in this program, do you feel like culturally or politically or in other ways you're kind of already aligned? I mean, were there some controversial topics? Do you feel like there was like real tough work being done? You feel like people had some strong disagreements? I don't just mean like cats and dogs, but like, things that are a little bit kind of more kind of in the news and that kind of thing. Did you get into some of that? And do you feel like you were at odds with somebody, ideologically, but you were able to have like those kind of conversations that, were civil? Or do you feel like everyone was like, yeah, this topic we all agree on because we were already here?
Yeah, I definitely feel like a very interesting part for me with these conversations is I got to talk to a lot of people who shared maybe the same like basis of opinion, but we all got there like for different reasons, which was really interesting. Everybody kind of has their own motives behind what they believe in, and I think that's just as important to learn about somebody and to share out than it is just to get to that final point of like why we agree. So
Great. Well, thank you so much for presenting, and I'm glad this has had a successful first year. And is it going to build on this next year then when you come back in? And still there's supposed to be 3. Will it be a similar format, or do you know yet?
Yeah, the Can We project as a whole keeps that similar 3 retreat format, but we're definitely going to work on adapting our style.
Adapting it for you.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Really appreciate it. Great job.
thank you
Thanks.
guys.
Okay, and continuing with the student theme, we're going to get right to the student board rep report. So you're not off the hook yet, Joe. Good.
Okay, so we are back from April break, but student athletes didn't have that much of a break. That's okay. We had lots of games and practices over the week.
The graduation ceremony is 48 days away, but who's counting?
Before break, students were split up by grade for a day. Freshman class toured Thomas College, while sophomores did main through the year testing, juniors took the science testing, and seniors had a day to participate in service projects or do as they please, I suppose.
The AP exam season starts really soon. It runs from May 4th to May 15th, and it came up much sooner than many students realized.
The Interact Club is in the process of planning their Lunch for Leaders, which raises money for sophomore students to go to leadership camps such as RILA or Hobie. So they create and sell bagged lunches. If anybody's interested, definitely talk to Miss Trendy. She will get you on the list. But those, I know I went to one. Charlie, did you go to RILA as well? And it was definitely an important moment for me. The main sale assembly is coming up too, which is put on by SCLC to honor a member of the community who's impacted the students and community of RSU1. So if you have someone in mind that you're thinking of, the only thing is they can't be employed by RSU1. You can submit an application form, a nomination form for them online, and that'll be reviewed by SCLC.
I'm not sure the accuracy of this next point just because they played today, but the boys tennis program was currently among the top 3 in the state Class B rankings, with senior captain Ronan Lafer heading the team. And then the Best Buddies program is hosting a Sources of Strength Spirit Week, where students are encouraged to dress up on theme to show their support for unified programs. Additionally, they are fundraising with Aroma Joe's. All proceeds from certain menu items will be donated to the Morse Unified program. That's all we got.
That's it. Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Any questions for our students? Okay. Just hold on. You guys are almost there. We're almost through it. Okay. Superintendent's report, Patrick.
Just a few items. Mary Meeting Adult Education, which you learned a little bit more about tonight. The graduation for those students will be on June 10th at 4 p.m. This year it's at Morse. It rotates between the 3 high schools. We anticipate 35 students will be graduating, and it's just a very impressive evening to see the students come across the stage of various ages that have overcome a lot of challenges in their lives. So it's an impressive evening. I was able to go to the annual science fair at Fisher Mitchell right before break, and it was neat to see the different topics, and the students did a great job presenting and had a good time with that. For the building project, the new pre-K to 5 elementary school in Bath, we've narrowed down the options for the site to 2 different options. One happens to be between the middle school and the high school out on the back, kind of, I guess I would say backfields. And would come out kind of on the old Bath Road. So that's one option. The other option is the former Dyke Newell site that the school is, I guess you'd say, half on at this point. So those are the 2 sites that are being tested right now. They're being appraised, but they're also being tested for vernal pools and other things at this time right now. So LaValle Brensinger, who is our architectural firm, will be here at the next board meeting and will give an update on the site selection, the visioning that we've been doing with the Dyke Newell and Fisher Mitchell staff. So they'll provide you with a comprehensive update. I think we're looking at probably late summer, early fall to do a straw poll vote for the sites. And again, anything could happen between now and then as far as which site or if we have to look for a different site. So it's kind of, it's in process, and I wanted people to know that. Battle of the Books was another fantastic evening that we had in beginning of April, I think it was. The students were very engaged in this academic competition, and it's just fun to watch. And I would like to thank our K-8 library and staff in the district. And it's also appreciated to have the continued participation of West Bath and Georgetown that come over as well, as long as they don't beat us. Last one I'll just mention is VFW essay competition. Winner of this nationwide contest, which is Voice of Democracy. It's an essay competition, was a student at Morse High School. And so Olivia Druzniak is a junior and is already committed to the U.S. Coast Guard. And in addition to beating besting 49 other state winners, she's been awarded a $35,000 scholarship. So we're going to invite her, or she has been invited, to come to the May board meeting so that she can do her speech in front of you. So congratulations to her. That's all I have.
Okay, let's see. So it's old business. We have financial, that's right, financial report.
It's always so nice to listen to our students. I think you guys do a great job. Yeah. So tonight we're looking at the month of March, and we've spent 66% of our budget. This is a little bit higher than what last year was. So basically, a good way to look at this, I looked at it today, is like our budget, our $45 million budget, 1% is $455,000. So when you see a difference of 1%, it really does mean something. And as you're looking at this report, everything looks nice because it says that we have $5.6 million left. But in reality, there's so much that is going to be spent down. And basically, there are 4 cost centers that do not show a negative on the financial report that you're looking at, but that we're concerned about as far as outside tuitions and main care costs, transportation, out of district placement transportation, and some operation and maintenance costs with electricity, and then also some gas costs because we pay gas for our buses and all that. So it's going to be very close this year. Patrick has talked to our administrators and asked them to spend with caution. So that's the way we will move forward for the rest of the year. Revenues pretty much online. Jen asked last time how our tuition was doing, but as we looked at the budget versus actual for tuition, we should be to the good on the revenue side by about 137,000. So there we are. That's not real great news, but we really have to pinch our pennies like most everybody does right now, and at their home level. So things are tight, but I think that we will push on and make it through.
Questions for, Jennifer, go ahead.
So the appropriated surplus on this report is $1,100,000.
1,100,000. Where are you looking?
On your report here underneath revenues.
Oh, yeah.
So that number, and I can wait for this, maybe it's a budget question, it kind of goes into the budget report. So do you want me to hold this to the budget?
Well, it is part of the
Balance forward.
balance forward.
Right. So on the budget, it says 1 million and this says 1,100,000. Does that mean that there's been $100,000 taken out of this before
That
the next budget?
100,000 was for the vocational beginning balance that we used on this budget last year. So vocational, if they do not spend every dollar, it goes into, it's required by the DOE, it goes into its own fund balance. It's not a separate fund, but we can't spend that except for on vocational. So last year we used 100,000 for beginning balance for vocational, and we did not spend that 100,000, but we can't spend it on anything other than vocational, if that makes sense. We have to basically go over the vocational cost center line in order to use that fund balance.
So that's why it's not on our budgets then.
That's why it's not on your budget.
Thank you. I don't know what we're going to do without you. Never going to understand. Thank you, Deb.
Any other questions for Deb? No? Okay. I mean, I know there'll be more when we get to the forum. So thanks, Deb. Okay. So old business. We now have a second reading of board policies. I'm going to read through them. This is an action item. So we have the IMDC, the celebration of holidays, IMG, animals in schools, IMGA, service animals in schools, IMGB, therapy dogs and other service animals, JLF, child abuse reporting, prevention and education, and JLFE, suspected child abuse neglect reporting form. So those are ones we received last month. Revised policies. You've had a month to look at them. Are there questions regarding the language? No, not hearing any. Then may I have a motion to pass?
I move approval of all policies.
Okay. The second?
I second.
Okay. All right. Hearing no other questions, all in favor? All right, that passes. And now we move into new business, which is again our fiscal year 2027 budget public forum. So what I'm going to do is hand it over to Patrick to explain. Are these the sheets that everyone's got out there?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Are the sheets there, Kim, or did you pass them around?
Okay.
They're here. So if people want to grab, there's two sheets over there. If you want to grab them, you don't have to, but if you'd like to, you can.
And so Patrick's going to explain a bit about what those look like, what they are, what it includes or what it doesn't. And then we can have a discussion. We'll open it up to the public to, at that point, speak to the budget. I just want to remind the board that we are not making a decision tonight. That's next week is when we will need to decide on a version of the budget that we are comfortable with going forward to put out to the voters and sign the warrants for. So tonight's the night to ask questions, to be clear on what's being presented. If there's something else that you want to see by next week, or if one of these two versions are looking appropriate. But that's what's happening tonight. So we're going to have that discussion and we'll go from there. Everybody get clear on that? Yeah, okay. Great. Then Patrick, if you want to explain what we have in front of us, please.
Yeah, so from the last time we met to now, we received word from the Department of Education, and it was part of the supplemental budget that includes a one-time funding to help school districts around the state that qualify for it. And so it has to be, you have to have a high proportion of students that are disadvantaged, which is determined by a formula. And so RSU1, it had to be 40% or more, and RSU1 had around 41 or 42%. So, and then it's based on the number of students. And so it was a $85,000 in change to help districts. Some districts received a couple $100,000 or more, and some received none, obviously. So it was an attempt by the legislature and the DOE to help this one time with school districts that are experiencing high budgets. And so you can see on the one handout that doesn't have any highlights on it, that one has that $85,000. You can see on the top, it says school funding one time. So that helps lower this budget and bring that local contribution down to 5.70. And then overall increase is 4.23. And then that first boxed column, if you're interested, you can see, that makes a Rousick 2.81, Bath 6.91, Pittsburgh minus 1.55, and Woolwich 8.57. And then the other sheet is, as a result of the meeting before break, there was some interest, or there was questions asked about if we put back in 50,000, which was approximately the amount for the part-time secretary, so that the board could consider that as an option, or at least have that information in front of them, or see what 50,000 just in general would do to this budget. And that's what the highlighted version represents. So we didn't print off the other 8 or 10 pages backup. I think, obviously for next meeting we will, and if you have questions in the meantime. So I'll stop there. I mean, I think we just felt like the front pages were maybe all you needed for tonight.
So just so I'm clear, because I know when we were talking before, this doesn't include, when you added the 85 back in, or this doesn't include any other cuts that we were considering, or anything like that, right? Because I know there was a few you had mentioned,
Correct.
but, okay. And then, and you're saying if you added 50, obviously be used for anything, but people had asked about those positions, and that's what it would take to put back in. Okay. And so those are the things we are looking at now. I want to, before I toss it out to the public to comment on the budget, I just want to ask if there are some clarifying questions or concerns or something from any of the board members first. Yeah, Jennifer, go ahead.
I did notice that there was some funding available to schools to help initiate the new cell phone policy. I think to pay for yonder pouches. And I was just wondering, I did check with our main school board management, but they didn't know if there was any of that funding, if we would be eligible for it, because we had already kind of started the program ahead of time. And I know it's probably not big money, but I'm just trying to find anything.
No, I mean, we've asked Robbie Feinberg from Maine School Management. I think it's $6.50 a student. I'm not sure if that's just for secondary students. And we also have advocated strongly that there's no reason why we shouldn't receive the same amount of money reimbursement. And also Eric and Katie, I think, are hosting a regional Yonder conference here for other school districts. And we're also politely expecting a discount on some of these Yonder pouches that we have to purchase in the future. So.
Yeah, go ahead.
In providing the student perspective here, as that is my role, if we were to avoid spending any money additionally on Yonder pouches, I think that could be a very easy way to just scrounge a little bit. Because if I'm being perfectly honest, very few students use them at all. They mostly sit in backpacks, and people keep their phones either in the office or in their backpack or in their car, or some even leave them at home. But the amount of students who actually use their Yonder pouches is very, very small. So like if it's $6.25 a student, and we can save that on 600 students at Morse, at least, I don't know. It's an area that I feel like we could save that money.
Okay, thanks.
And Katie, I don't know if you want to speak to that, because we buy them one time for our students and we reuse them.
It's a great, and I think, and even Yonder, the people talk about how the idea of having them is more powerful than the actual use of them. And the original amount we paid was never local money, and that's the big upfront cost. It was almost, I want to say it was $45,000, but it was from the COVID funds. And so that upfront amount has already been spent, not by local taxpayer money, and we won't have to spend it again. We just pay for the 6th grade pouches each year. And because we have spoken about how we're very aware most kids don't use them, but it's the power they have because they exist, essentially. And because we promoted just the idea of a bell-to-bell policy, that Yonder has gotten a lot of publicity, to be honest, from us. And Mr. Varney was able to get, it's just going to be $3,000 for us this year.
From Yonder?
Yeah, total, which would be paid fully by the state now anyways. So I agree with you. I think your administrators are all very aware of that. And as long as people aren't using the phones, that's really what the policy is about. I think if we were a district that was about to spend that original amount of money, I think that would be a great thing to do. I don't know if it would be worth it at this point, just because that has already sort of come and gone. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. But it's a great idea.
Yeah, certainly the concept of it certainly helped establish the culture that is now been, taken up. So that's good. Question, Patty?
I feel like the middle school used it a lot more. Is that accurate? Yeah.
Charlie's spot on. But there's something and I can't, if anyone can figure out like what else in our society does this, I've been working hard to identify what this is, but the existence of the pouches means the phones are nowhere to be seen. And it could be the chance that if, at this point we wouldn't need the pouches and the phones would still be gone. But I do connect with other school districts and say you should get the pouches. It's just been so efficient and we don't deal with phones.
Great. Anyone else comments about the budget or where we're at with this? No? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm so grateful that we got some additional money from the state. And I am grateful of all of the work that's gone into this. I know the board probably will not be surprised at all this, but I'm really worried about adding any additional cost into the budget. So I wouldn't be supporting the additional $50,763. And I guess I was also just curious, and that amount covers, does that amount cover all of the employment related taxes and the salaries? Okay. I was just looking online at all the taxes that go into every salary dollar that an employer pays, and it's incredible. And I guess the next thing I just wanted to do was, I think in terms of not supporting the additional $50,763, I think the board has all received the letter from the Woolwich Select Board that everybody signed. I think this is a first step that I haven't seen one of these letters come from our municipal select boards in the past. I think it indicates how difficult this year is. I don't really want to regurgitate all the numbers in it because you've been able to read it, but it talks specifically about this increasing cost every year, about our struggle to try to keep our municipal budgets low, but also how our residents are struggling with these additional taxes. It talks a little bit about how Woolwich seems to carry more of that burden as a town, a percentage increase as others do. And all those numbers can go into a formula. The things that I really was struck by this letter was that it asked for some very specific changes in the budget. And one, as I've asked in years past, was about our balance forward. And in the past, when it was above $1 million, we took that upon, I think a lot of my kind of requesting is that we were able to take some of that and reduce our budget by taking part of that balance forward. It remains at $1 million like it has every year. And the letter specifically asks if this might be one of those very few moments that we could use some of that balance forward money to help reduce the local impact. And I started thinking, I don't think over the 13 years I've been here, I've ever seen an issue of us needing that $1 million. And I don't know in the past if we've had to dip into that $1 million. I know each year if we don't have that $1 million, we would need to try to fund that up to that $1 million in the next year, but we're hopefully going to see some subsidy relief coming forward with the new EPS funding. So one of the requests is that the select board, like everybody's boards, looks at that balance forward. They have their own budgets and asking if this might be one of those moments in time where we, are able to use some of that. And the last item that really kind of comes home to me is that looking at, around where the budget is right now, it would mean most homes have a higher value than the value document that we usually get, the $300,000. So if you look at the average home in Woolwich, and the calculations, the estimate is about that it might be $270 a year increase, which what it would come out to. And again, we're still working on all the budgets, but the letter specifically states that out of the 1,000 Woolwich residents age 65 and older, many are on fixed incomes, and even small increases add up to a magnitude that it's hard to support in their current budget today. So I asked the board to consider the cost to our elderly community on fixed incomes, our cost on new families, trying to both afford a home and afford all the expenses that we know well too dearly, and that the select board finishes in saying, we are on complete partnership and support of the RSU like we all are, but we're just really struggling in Woolwich to how we can help this budget work. So the letter asks for even bigger decreases in some areas, and I'm I don't know if that's going to meet the board's interest at all. I'm kind of guessing it won't, but maybe there's some place to reduce some more. But I would like to at least start out by saying that we can't really increasing the budget any more than it already is a real difficulty for our folks. Thank you.
Thank you. Does Patrick or Deb, do you want to respond
I'll let
to the
Deb.
forward?
I'll let Deb talk about the balance.
The balance forward,
but
just to be
I would
clear.
just say, I appreciate the letter from Woolwich, and I always appreciate the working relationship we have with them as a board, and a very professionally written letter. Maybe a few things that I'll just point out that were maybe inaccurate at some other time, but for the most part, it was, again, we appreciate their support over the years. I would just bring up, and again, I know it's percentages, but if you look at the bottom of those budget sheets, and again, I get that this is challenging for everyone involved, but just that if you look at the last 5 years, that I know Woolwich is, the last couple of years has been the highest, but if you look at over those 5 years, the averages over in that right-hand column at the bottom, I think that's worth at least looking at. That's all. So, Deb, do you want to talk about?
So, Jen, it would be nice if we could use some additional beginning balance, but what's happened is, if you can remember, many years ago, we always used 400,000 for a beginning balance. Well, we've shifted into $1 million for quite a few years now. Well, in order to maintain that $1 million, we have to have additional expenses that we don't spend from our current budget and additional revenues. Well, what's happened in the past few years is we're getting closer and closer. Last year, we had 300,000 left in expenses and 35,000 in revenues. This year, we'll be lucky to have that. So basically, what's happening is that gap has closed. I've talked with Hank about it. We are feeling that next year, there is no way that we can use $1 million for a beginning balance next year. If we have additional subsidy, thank goodness, because then maybe we can reduce that. But bottom line is, in the outlook for the $1 million that we're using in fiscal year 27, we have 933,000 towards that. So we have to have a little bit of revenue and a little bit of expenses this year to close that gap. But that's what's happening is we don't have additional expenses and revenue left over to work on that $1 million every year. If you looked at our audit, it says that we have $4 million, but what's happened is over 2 million is almost 2 million is for Department of Education. We had to send back, and that was remaining funds that we had from the Morse High School project. They won't allow us to keep it. They want it back because they're the ones that supported the project. And then we have 424,000 in vocational fund balance, which, like I had said earlier, we can't spend that unless it's on vocational, create new programs or something big that they need to buy. The other $1 million is on special purpose funds, all these little additional funds that we have, different grants and that type of thing. That makes up that $1 million, and then that leaves what we've designated to use in fiscal year 27 is close to that $1 million. So next year, if we don't have the funds, then that's going to be, we're going to start out already in the negative as far as the $1 million. So unfortunately, we don't have a lot of or any room there to increase that $1 million to something higher.
And so if that, we started off next year with 800,000. And our subsidies changed maybe dramatically, then wouldn't the bottom line still be not as huge an impact if the subsidies go up and that starting number goes down? I mean, I know it's a guessing game, I know, Deb,
Right.
but I mean, like, is there a projection there where we would be able to make up that difference, whereas we might not, where we're looking at such an impact on expenses this year? Is there a,
Keep in mind, those expenses go up every year. Every contract's going to be negotiated next year. We've been basically the last couple of years increasing our budget at least $2 million each year. You're talking 300,000 is what they projected additional revenue with this new formula in. So
yeah,
we're still quite a ways away.
okay.
But with what they're projecting for the 300,000, is that factored into what we're thinking for next year or no? Because we don't know yet.
We don't know yet.
Right. Okay.
I mean, hopefully it'll be higher. I mean, hopefully, I believe that the scenario was 300,000. If we had used it this year, it would have been that much more this year. So maybe they'll have more to add next year,
But everything we're basing it on is what we know, not what we
What we
think will happen,
know.
right? So it'll be a good thing if it happens, but we don't know if that's going to happen. Okay. Anybody else have questions for Deb? Jamie, did you have a question?
Well, I think you just answered it. I think my question was, it makes me very nervous to talk about taking any money out of that fund for this year, but it sounds like if next year subsidies come in, we know what contracts are, there might be opportunity next year to look at taking funds from that fund balance if we've done well. Am I understanding that correctly?
Taking those funds to close the gap, so maybe we could use $1 million in our fund balance for next year, because that would ultimately be the goal, is to be able to start out exactly, with $1 million, because otherwise we're going to be looking at, we're starting this budget and we're short, $500,000 already before we add any increases in expenses. So,
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's my concern. Thank you.
okay.
Okay, anyone else have any questions on where we are or concerned about, either what we're leaving out or what else we should leave out? I know Jennifer's addressed that already with, actually cutting more, but anyone else? Go ahead.
Deb, I see that we've got some, later on in the agenda, we're going to be looking at some new teachers. And each year where there's this little bit of a comfort because our new teachers come in at a different cost than our outgoing teachers do. Is there any way of acknowledging, is there any more room in there that we can look for budget reduction?
We usually
Good.
budget like in like a step 12 or something like that. And some come in, if they come in at step 0, wonderful. We made out, in one of our schools this year, but we knew it, so we were able to make some adjustments in this proposed budget based upon those new hires. But it's all part of the process of interviewing. I mean, when the administrators and the team sit down with candidates, they're looking at the best candidate, and sometimes it's top of the scale, sometimes it's not.
So we've got several positions in our agenda today. I guess my question is,
Those have been already reflected.
reflected in, that's, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was another one.
Okay.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open it up to the public. As always, please keep your comments to 3 minutes if possible, and just let us know your name and where you're from. And let's keep it respectful, and we're all in this together, so that's what we want to hear from everybody, and that's what we want to do. and that's how we're going to proceed going forward. So you can start coming up if you'd like to. Please.
My name is Romy Palazzado. I teach at Pittsburgh Elementary, Dyke Newell, and I live in Woolwich. I'm going to speak about maintaining the full-time nursing position at PES. Having had the privilege of working at PES for 30 years, I have witnessed firsthand the critical role consistent full-time nursing support plays in the well-being of our students and families. In the past, PES operated with only part-time nursing coverage, making it the only school in the district without daily access to a nurse. During that time, essential healthcare responsibilities such as medication, incident documentation, communication with families often fell to the school secretary. While our secretary is highly capable and dedicated, this arrangement is neither sustainable nor appropriate given the increasing complexity of student health needs. This model created significant challenges as office staff are required to balance their primary responsibilities with duties beyond their training. Without a full-time nurse, there is not a greater likelihood of increased absenteeism as students may be sent home when a licensed professional is unavailable to properly assess and support them. As student needs help continue to grow, the absence of consistent nursing care compromises both student well-being and the overall stability of the school community. Additionally, as noted in the last public session, school secretaries already manage numerous responsibilities, including multiple platforms and monitoring visitors. If a student arrives at school ill, the secretary may be unable to adequately supervise the office while also providing care if the 10-to-2 model is used. Our principal's morning responsibilities, like duties, IEPs, will limit her ability to assist. Outside of limited nursing hours, responsibility for addressing student health concerns, documenting, and providing care falls back on office staff, increasing their workload and responsibilities. And I understand that a portion of this budget increase is attributed to special education needs, which are often accompanied by significant medical considerations and ongoing health support. If this is the case, it is difficult to reconcile how reducing nursing staff aligns with effectively supporting these students. It's also important to recognize student medical needs are not always known until the registration process. Students may require support for allergies, seizures, diabetes, and other health concerns that demand timely and knowledgeable care. While staff receive basic training, vector training, a school nurse brings a clinical expertise, professional judgment, and preparedness necessary to respond effectively to medical situations. Nurses operate under established protocols and hold licenses and certifications that ensure both appropriate care and accountability, protections that other staff members may not have in emergencies. Sorry. And at one time, and right now, other districts are adding nurses or expanding, like SAD 75 is expanding their nursing staff. So
Okay. No, it's good
we
to
want
know.
to keep our nurse. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Brandy Tainter, here again. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. At a time where neighboring districts are prioritizing the health and safety of all their students, it is concerning that our district's priorities are slipping. If the budget passes in SAD 75, 2 full-time nurses will be hired, which will ensure that each of their schools has a full-time nurse. I think it is important that RSU1 stays as one of the more forward-thinking districts. At PES, our interventionist has turned over 3 times in 3 years. We should be asking ourselves why this is. Kids at this young age thrive on stability. Having a nurse only part-time is yet another example of how we will be providing an unstable learning environment to our students. At the last meeting, you all acknowledged that our administrative assistants are tasked with one of the hardest jobs in the district, thus requiring more support at 2 schools. Yet the administrative assistant at PES will have all the same responsibilities and jobs, as well as attending to the healthcare needs of students 40% of the time with no extra support at all. I fielded about 200 emails and calls in 2 days in regards to the asbestos exposure at PES. Not one of those parents or doctors I corresponded with would have accepted a response from a non-healthcare professional. Everyone here has acknowledged the healthcare needs of students have dramatically increased, as well as the expectations of parents. They're used to a certain level of care for their children, and they are not willing to sacrifice that, nor should they have to. Office visit copays with insurance can be $40 to $60 in addition to the time missed from work. With multiple children, that adds up. School nurses reduce unnecessary and costly visits. Parents do not want to wait until 10 a.m. when the nurse arrives to have their child assessed. They want their child to be seen at the start of the school day and to be reassessed throughout the course of the entire school day as needed, just like all the other kids in the district. The inequity across our schools is being noticed. Our eyes are wide open. Parents, staff, students, the Pittsburgh community, and our district physician do not support a reduction in nursing services. So if the current budget is the one that is presented to me as a voter on June 9th, my vote will be no.
Okay. Anyone else?
Hi, Stella Perkins. I'm a resident of Pittsburgh. I only have one question because these ladies come forward with all of what I was going to say. But if we have a person that does an assessment and is not qualified to do that assessment, who is liable for that? Is the person that does the assessment, or is RSU paying for it? Who is it? Who's liable? That's my question.
Okay.
How we doing? Anthony Gilman, Pittsburgh Elementary alumni. Patrick, how you doing? Good to see you again. At the last meeting, you were at our school, and it was pretty common that nobody really wanted to give up our nurse or any teacher's aides. So in Pittsburgh, we've been limping our school along for quite a long time. It's not the most technologically advanced, but our nurse knows our kids in and out. Yes, we have a fire department ambulance across the road. They don't know our kids. They could be on a call. If the ambulance comes over for our kid, who foots the bill for that ambulance? Us, RSU1, and they don't know our kid. Long story short, we want our school left alone. We want our teachers, we want our nurse. Thank you.
Thank you.
Melissa Rydell, interventionist. I wish I had so many people here with me to support what I'm saying, but my partner at Dyke Newell has young children and she cannot be here to support me, so I'm going to represent both of us. I'm pleased to hear that you are considering maintaining the halftime secretary position at both DNS and FMS. However, hearing our interventionist position might be restored as an EdTech 2 rather than eliminating it is disappointing. To be clear, hiring an EdTech is not restoring the interventionist position. The demands of the interventionist role have evolved significantly since I began in this position. At the start of the year, we assess students, interpret those assessments, develop RTI goals and plans based on that data, and monitor progress closely. While providing instruction, we continually observe student performance and use professional judgment to adjust our teaching in real time. As the year progresses, we continue assessing and tracking progress toward goals, interpreting new data, and revising or creating new plans as needed. In addition, we write student referrals, maintain detailed records, and prepare reports for families, among many other responsibilities. At the last meeting, Jenny Burns noted that the 2 remaining interventionists would see their workload increase by 50%. The responsibilities that I have outlined are specific to the interventionist role and are not included in the job description or scope of an EdTech 2. Introducing an EdTech 2 does not reduce the workload, rather it adds to it, as interventionists would be responsible for planning for and supervising that position. Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa. All right. Anyone else?
You can time me because I have a tendency to ramble.
The time's
I
already
wasn't really
started.
planning on speaking. So I'm not speaking as an administrator, as a principal or anything. My kids went through the system. I'm a taxpayer. I live in the area. One of my favorite sayings is the only thing that likes change is a baby with a wet diaper. And I'm saying that, and I'm speaking at this meeting because this is less about all the people here, less about the board, and more about the communities at large that may or may not be watching this. Last year and this year, I felt you guys do an amazing job of trying to balance different perspectives and different values, and all of those are great. What I'm most, the reason I'm speaking is more about what often doesn't get said and is taken out of the equation. The per pupil expenditure at the schools is not the same. This is not a reflection of the district or the communities liking more schools than others. It has to do with the size of the schools and the efficiency of scale. Dyke Newell and Fisher Mitchell and Bath decided to consolidate their schools. We're able to operate on less per pupil expenditure. Woolwich and Phippsburg, what's never on the table is reducing a teacher or increasing a teacher because they have like just enough. Dyke Newell and Fisher Mitchell can go up a teacher and down a teacher because we have more teachers like per grade level, which means our class sizes will always be and hover always higher than Phippsburg and Woolwich. So you can make the argument that inequities start with the class sizes. I am not arguing for or against any of it. But what needs to be addressed are the things that aren't talked about. Somebody brought up last time about fiscal responsibility and having to be accountable and talking about reducing programs in certain areas. What never gets talked about, and I know nobody likes this, and I realize I grew up in the military, so I went to 8 schools in 12 years. My perspective, as you guys talked about, what you call it, our what? No one? Can we? I totally get that everybody brings their personal history of schools and what they like and don't like. And this is not for this budget cycle, but I think the selectmen and the city councils and the townspeople who grew up with K-8 and all these small K-5 schools need to come to grips that we're going to be in this situation next year and the year after and the year after if we as adults don't confront the tough decisions that we may need to move beyond what our experiences of schools were. So if somebody wants to keep their taxes down, are the same people who write emails about keeping taxes down willing to support closing a school, willing to support making Woolwich a K-5, willing to consolidate? Because if you're not willing to consolidate and you want your taxes down, that's about us wanting to maintain and holding on to old systems. Thank you.
Thank you, Ross. Anyone else? Yep.
Good evening. My name is Amanda, and I'm a resident of Bath, prior resident of Phippsburg. And I wanted to talk about the nurse position being cut to part-time. I think that what's important to look at is not just the monetary reduction of the budget, is what this disservice is going to be doing to the children. What a nurse is providing to students is not just medications and things that we see physically, but we don't know what's happening with a child behind closed doors at home, and they might need that nurse to talk to, that maybe they're not comfortable talking to the principal or another student or the teacher. And I think with mental health, especially on the rise, that this is not the part of the budget that we want to cut. I think that especially at the elementary age, that the nurse could be helping even one student maybe change the trajectory of their life and how they move forward through middle school, high school, and how they interact with other students. I see these high school students that I think they're so intelligent and impressive, and that started from somewhere. And they probably had that support when they were younger. And I think that we want to see that for all students, and it starts from a young age. And I think Phippsburg needs a full-time nurse.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Liz Holbrook. I'm a taxpayer of Phippsburg. I'm here yet again to support a full-time nurse at Phippsburg. 2 years ago, you all agreed that a full-time nurse was a vital part of our school community. The only thing that has changed in the last 2 years is our school's leadership. Multiple times it has been pointed out that these meetings, that it is the school's principal who makes these decisions. I do not have a child right now, but if I do, it will be essential to me that our child's school has the community's best interest in mind. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ethan Morgan. I'm a resident of Phippsburg as well, speaking on behalf of the school nurse too. But again, I don't envy any of you, the position that you have right now, but the last meeting that I came to, the one takeaway that I really had was the understanding that you have a belief in the fiscal responsibility as well as the responsibility to the students. And that isn't something that's lost, and it's not something to take lightly. But I do worry a little bit about the idea or the creation of a false economy and what that fiscal responsibility actually entails. There is a non-line item cost to losing that school nurse. That there's costs in parents having to miss work because they have to pick up kids that may not have to go home if there's a nurse present. There's a cost to increased emergency room visits, increased hospital expenses that parents may have to take on because there's no nurse present. There's also a lost cost in the idea of what this school brings to the community and who this school brings to the community. I grew up in a very small town in Vermont. Hopefully my great-grandkids will be able to call themselves Maynards. I've lived here 30 years. But my parents chose that community because of the school that I got the privilege of going to. And when my wife and I moved to Phippsburg, we chose it primarily because of a small school and a small community like that. So it is something that weighs on our choice and what's going on there. It's something that I feel that we and other parents have to reconcile. Is if the school system changes drastically, is it a community that we want to support and be a part of as well? So there's a lot more to the fiscal responsibility side than just the small budget for the nurse. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
I know this is,
Go ahead.
I know
Oh,
this
yeah.
is public comment, but I just want to make a couple clarifying
Sure, absolutely.
statements. I mean, and we've said this before, but none of us like to make these reductions. There were no reductions at Phippsburg last year. It's not a competition, but we're in a place where we're trying to get this budget to a place where it can pass. 2 years ago, it was recommended by the principal and the administration to reduce the nurse. Budget processes are fluid, so sometimes you do get some money, some things change. You might hire teachers like Jen mentioned tonight, so that a board can sometimes add something in, possibly at the last minute. But I want to be clear that, again, Phippsburg is small. We've talked about that tonight, and that when we're in tough times like this, people have to look at where can we reduce. Phippsburg, and I think the term, and I'm not picking on you, but you use the term limping. Our goal, and you may not agree with this in this room, but our goal is to make sure that all of our schools are well taken care of, from a facility standpoint, to the staffing standpoint. And everybody at all of our schools wants more staff, more programming, but we try to be as equitable, if that's the right word to say, because every school is unique. So as far as, I just want to make those comments, because I think some of the comments that have been made tonight may be a little misleading, that's all. So thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. Yeah, there's a lot to think about with all of that. And Ross, thanks for your perspective that, because it's not all black and white. It's all, you got to look at a lot of different perspectives as to what's happening, and everyone can feel, left out for different reasons, depending on, size of the school, what, where it all is, what the efficiencies are. So thanks for those comments, everybody, for coming in. Katie, did you have something? Yeah. Okay, I saw your mic was on.
Oh,
So I
I'm
wasn't-
sorry, I was trying.
No, that's fine. So I thought you were waiting to talk. Before we close out this and move to finish our budget here, or the board meeting, do you have any? Yeah, go ahead.
So I spent a little time over the weekend looking at the main health funding for the school-based health centers. And I apologize if this is a redundant question, but I just, sometimes we can move parts of positions or we can find grant funding in different places. And so I just wanted to come back again and ask, is there any Mid-Coast Maine Health funding or Lincoln Hospital funding that helps us fund the school center here at Morse? Is there any kind of funding within that programming that we can go and try to find more funding that would help fund this medical nursing position in Phippsburg? I guess I know you guys look for everything, but maybe it's a question for Katie.
The short answer to that is no. It's a multi-year grant that's written in a particular way by Lincoln Health. And the services that are currently allowable are written to be here with other kids accessing it. And I explained in another meeting that part of the structure of it is they have to use their own computers, their own secure software, because it's actually a completely separately run medical center within here. And so it's the grant that is written for us essentially requires you to pick one location for them to run things in a way that's particular to how Maine Health runs things. And so there's really no like satellite option per se.
I guess, Katie, I was wondering about, is there any other funding that the Maine Health provides for nursing or Lincoln Health provides?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions on where we are with the forum? So just to reiterate, so you've got these two different scenarios in front of you. We're not making a decision tonight, but you need to think about if there's other stuff based on, all the comments today, other things you'd want to cut, other things you'd want to put back in. What does that look like? These are the things that, again, we're going to have to come back and you really got to think about, in the letter that came from Woolwich and all the commentary, everything that came in, and what's being asked of us. So think about that. You got a week. And when we come back, we have to come up with, we have to decide on either one of these scenarios or a third scenario that we want to sign a warrant for and put forward to the community. Okay. So we all understand where we're at. Okay. And no other questions as of today. Jamie, you have any questions?
I don't think so. I think, sometimes it's a challenge because I leave knowing very clearly where some folks stand and where others, I'm not really sure. So I think I'm not sure how to find clarity around that. I'm listening to a lot of the different commentary that has been addressed in the past few weeks. And so I would encourage folks to go back and read through the minutes because a lot of the questions and just, I guess, things that maybe aren't 100% accurate would be in those meeting notes. I don't know that I have anything more than that.
Well, like I said, we've got the two. I don't know if anyone's leaning anywhere right now. I mean, Jen isn't hiding how she's feeling, but I don't know. She'd like to see more cuts. I don't know if people are thinking about, they wanted to see what it would be to put some of the money back in. But if you don't have anything else right now, then I'm going to close this part of the meeting. We can stay in touch with Patrick and Katie over the week. Feel free to reach out to me if any of you have questions or want to see something else that you're not seeing. and we'll communicate over the week so we really have some solid options, whether it's these and or something else next Monday when we come together and just focus on this, because we just, we're doing our due diligence. We're doing everything we can. I appreciate everyone's comments tonight. Appreciate clarification from Patrick and everyone coming out. So thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. And I'm going to close out the budget forum, and we're going to finish up our meeting. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to the personnel items, and Patrick, you can go ahead.
So we have 4 resignations. Zoe Pascuzzo, who is academic interventionist at Phippsburg. Thank her for 1 year of service to the district. Elizabeth McDore, Ed Tech 2 at Fisher Mitchell. Thank her for 1 year of service. Jenna, who's here in attendance, Jenna Friedman, technology support specialist. Thank you for 3 years of service. And Rebecca Malburn, Ed Tech 2 at Woolwich for 8 years of service to the district. Nominations, it's in your backup that you have. I'll go through these real quick, but we had 2 art openings this year, which is unusual. We had one at Morse High School. We had 16 applications, interviewed 7 people. And our nomination to you tonight, a recommended candidate is Adam Corvo, and he's been at St. Dom's and he was at Scarborough before that. Then art teacher at Bath Middle School, our recommendation is Sarah Fanning. We had 12 applications, interviewed 4 people, and Sarah is coming from Texas, where she's been an art teacher and also an assistant principal. Oops, hold on a second. Then we have 2 teachers at Dyke Newell, grade 2 teacher. We had 12 applications, 5 people we interviewed. And for grade 2, we're recommending Rachel Richardson, who is currently at Warren Community School. And then the last one, grade 1 teacher, we put down 1 application, 1 person interviewed, but that was really the pool that we used for the second grade teacher as well. Yeah, and no, yeah. And so we're recommending Catherine Smith for the grade 1 teaching position, and she's coming from Virginia.
Great, and that's an action item,
Yeah, that's
right?
an action
Okay.
item.
So can I have a motion, please?
I move to approve the nomination.
Okay, we have a second. Second from Jennifer, and all in favor? All right. Looks like a good pull, and it's a lot of interest. I mean, those are a lot of applications for those positions. Okay, and then now we have approval of probationary teachers. This is also an action item.
So the handout I gave you has a list of, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 people that would go from probationary 1 to probationary 2 status. For those of you who don't know, there's 2 years of probationary status in the state of Maine, and then it goes to continuing contract. So I'm looking for the top group to go from probationary 1 to probationary 2, and then the bottom group, which is around 12 or 13, to go from probationary 2 to continuing contract.
And we can do that in one
Yes.
motion.
Yeah.
Okay, may I have a motion?
Yeah. The social worker is a social worker a special ed social worker or a non-special ed social worker? Yeah, I'm sorry, continuing contracts. I beg your pardon. I guess my question would be for both.
So we have.
Are they special ed social workers, funded or not?
I think I'd have to have Deb or Katie answer that question about where they're, what budget line they're under or what they're categorized as, or Karen.
Do you want it? I can read it to you. It's Brittany Merrill and Ashley Hale.
They're both regular ed.
Regular ed.
Student support.
Student support. Right. So our special ed, local special education budget, correct? No.
Not in the special education.
Student support. Got it.
Thank you. I was looking back at a list of all the positions we added with COVID money. And I was seeing how social work positions have progressed through our district, and that that now these are continuing contracts, which means these teachers will be with us going forward, without unless
Unless there's a reduction in force.
reduction in force, right? Yeah. And I think of that as I'm hearing the struggle for other positions, to fund other positions. And I'm thinking that these are now permanent new types of services that we have in our school systems now that we didn't have before. So when we talk about not, struggling to have that excess to be in our, balance forward, the struggle to fund school nurses, the struggle to fund all these things. I'm always aware of how the number of staff positions that we've increased before that we didn't have in the past, and how that impacts things. Thank you.
I'm happy to reply to that. Those were originally funded with COVID funds. However, when we realized that had been a grave need that was sort of out of whack with what social work other districts had similar to us in our size, that's when we chose to pick those up with our local funds. And, at the very beginning of this budget process, I understand what you're saying, but I was also under the impression that the board was happy with the direction things had taken for mental health in terms of making steps to improve that, which was something that was a very grave problem and actually continues to be so. And so that the board was not in favor of touching what we had done to try to remedy that issue. So is what you're saying, I guess, what is it that you're saying? Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I'm looking at those. I'm looking at how the makeup of our staff has changed, and that we struggle with fully funding some things, and how things have changed since COVID. And I look at those positions that weren't in our local budget before, and I'm looking now they're there, and now they're at continuing contract level. So we're really making a permanent position that these will be locally funded positions that started maybe out of a need during COVID with COVID money, and now it's progressed. And I'm not doubting that we don't need them, Katie, and I'm not doubting that we don't need all of these services. I am responding to that struggle of being able to pay an ever increasing size budget. And so these are these things that have changed us, and they've added to us, and they have added to the labor costs, which is the largest growing cost in our budget.
Right.
So I'm looking backwards and looking at that, and I'm looking at this again coming up now, and I'm trying to find a pathway through it. And it's not that I don't believe in the resources. I absolutely believe in them, and not but or, and I'm looking at our labor costs and how if we're going to increase that per person labor cost, how do we balance that by maybe having less staff?
Well, I understand, and that's where, right. So, but the explanation, and again, that's because every time we come to the budget, it's what are the priorities as we go forward. And I think the key, what I'm hearing from Katie, is that we were already at a loss. It's not like this is just hip and happening and now we have to do it. Other districts already had this. This was something we were gravely understaffed in. So you could pick on that one, but another perspective is that this is something we should have been having all along. It was highlighted even more so by the pandemic, by all the mental health issues, but we've also seen a turnaround since all this has happened, and overall healthier student body. So that's another perspective. I understand your comment about when you're looking at all the staff and what we've added or what's this and that, but it's what's the new normal now. So you have to go back and say, well, maybe those are essential, maybe something else isn't. I don't know. I'm not saying that's the case, but I think she explained it well, and I understand where you're coming from. I understand exactly what you're saying.
And Lou, I think that, and I appreciate that, but what other districts do, we don't wait for what other districts do. We
No,
do
that's
what's
not
good
what I
for
mean.
us,
I'm
okay.
talking about, no,
Yeah,
that's not what I'm
confused then.
talking about. I'm saying that
What is it?
because you can see in what others are doing, what the norms are, where people are. That was one that we could look at and say, wow, we really have been deficient in that. And so that's why
So
we kept those
so-
positions. I'm not saying that those all will be kept forever like any other position,
Right.
but I'm just explaining, she had a good explanation for why they exist and why those are moving forward.
Right.
Lou, can I have an opportunity to speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think one of the things that I hear regularly, we always seem to come back to this conversation at every single, and it's always, well, we paid for that with COVID money. We paid for that with COVID money. The board voted to pull these or create these positions. It wasn't because we had COVID money and ran out. It was because our board of directors listened to the people that are on the ground who were burnt out, who were saying, we need help, we need social work. And we made that decision regardless of whether there was COVID money to begin with or not. So it really frustrates me to hear us or hear a statement being said because we had it funded with COVID, we just rolled it in as if it were some, not thought through intentional decision that the entire board voted and it was passed. And it frustrates me that when we get to these difficult budget topics, it's our highest risk students that seems to be on the chopping block with some of our board members. And it's not fair for them to hear that message every single year. So I think if we want to look at ways we can become more efficient as a district, I agree with something that Ross said, and I felt like that for a very long time. Let's look at how we're operating as a whole as a district. Can other schools become K through 5? Can we have better consolidation? Can we have better efficiencies that way? But every year we are sending, some of us on this board are sending a message to our most at-risk students that CPP, APP, social work, all of these things should go away. And it's just wrong. And I think, at least for me, I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of spending tons of time on the same argument. And I would welcome further just discussion from other board members around this, because I want everyone to feel heard, but at the same time, like how much time are we going to spend on this discussion?
Okay, thanks, Jamie. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Jamie, if it's me you're talking about, you can say me. It's okay. I don't mind you calling me and saying, Jennifer, you do this. I'm not hurt by that. And we did vote on these resources, and it is important. But we also each year have to look at what we have for availability in that year and in that moment. And so each year there is this question of how do we best use our resources. And this year, you yourself have said that the budget constraints on our communities are worse maybe than they've ever been before, and in some of the letters that you wrote. So I'm going to keep asking about it, Jamie, and I agree to disagree with you. And I'm not saying that we don't need these resources, and I don't think that we just folded them in. It's just that when we voted for them, we had a different economic scenario in our resources from the state and in our resources in our communities. And so now is a different one. And so now I look at them again and say, how can we not completely cut things? How can things change or get reduced a little bit, but still provide some of these services? But Jamie, it's okay if you disagree with me. You can say Jennifer is the person asking for these things, and I'm going to keep advocating and asking for them. But I appreciate our ability to disagree.
Jamie, do you have anything else before I move on?
No, I've said everything.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. So again, it's, I think if you can separate the actual topic of a specific type of staff, there's always the question of, as staff grows or as things, obviously, that's when things increase. We're going to be coming up to contracts. I will remind people, though, that what will be different with new contracts. With this last contract, part of the reason things continue to go up was each year we paid a little bit more of the healthcare to get it up to a certain point, to get up to 91%. That most likely will remain at 91% unless that becomes some negotiating thing again. But I'm just saying, so there was what hadn't always happened in the past where the salaries went up. This also was the salaries and the percent that we paid for the healthcare went up each year to get it to a certain point. That's what was agreed upon. So it may appear that it was in actuality be a little more money than it would have been in a normal contract cycle. We'll see what happens next year when we sit down with the unions again and talk about all this and talk about where we are with everything and where we are with folks. So I think while it comes up with different topics, I hear Jamie saying, something very specific about a certain part of the population and how that's affecting them. That's what you're utilizing, but I also think you're trying to talk about specifically staff and whether it's that staff or other staff. But you both have, I see where you're coming from, and it is important that we try to be sensitive to everyone as we're talking about this, because it's people's livelihood and it's also the students that are affected by it. And so we just have to be very aware and sensitive to that when we're talking about anybody's position and how that factors in, because that's not always an easy thing to hear, especially if you're that person or you're in that union or you're that student that's being affected. That could be your teacher. So please keep that in mind. We still have this on the table. I still need a motion for passing. This is, again, going from year 1 to year 2 and year 2 to, because it used to be 3 levels, right? Or just 2. Year 2 to continuing, thank you, continuing contract. I'll get there. May I have a motion? You've got a motion.
Okay, I move that the staff presented this evening be approved as listed to advance from probationary 1 to probationary 2 status, and that those listed for advancement from probationary 2 be approved for continuing contract status.
And may I have a second?
I second.
Jamie seconds. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor? And that passes. All right, we move on to board goals reflection. Jennifer.
I think tonight we were able to meet our communications and community engagement by having the public respond to the budget, and also to Patrick started to discuss, or is always discussing a little bit about the next construction project and where that's going. So I think we met goal 1 and goal 2 tonight.
Okay. Next meeting date. So we're back here, right? Next week. Yep. Next Monday, we're back here at 6 o'clock. And the next regular board meeting is May 18th after that. So without any other questions, may I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn this meeting.
Okay, second. All in favor? Okay, thanks for joining us remotely, Jamie. Appreciate it. Catch up.